Lots of questions for the last segment. That was really great. Next, we're hearing from two content creators with millions of subscribers and billions of views between them. They know how to build a digital brand, whether it's a personal brand or a company brand from scratch. So they're here to tell you how to get that viral hit you've been hoping for. In conversation with Thomson Reuters' Belinda Goldsmith, it's the CEO of WatchMojo.com, Ashkan Karbasfrooshan, and actress and influencer Charlotte McKinney.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'm delighted to be on stage here with Ash and with Charlotte for this session, Zero to Viral. Hopefully you get some great tips for everyone out there who's trying to build a social media following. So, of course, social media is a place where numbers do matter. Ash, tell us your numbers. Impress everyone with what stage you've got to now.
Sure. So we reach about 120 million unique viewers per month, and we generate about 500 million views each month. And all time, we've generated 75 billion minutes of watch time on YouTube, which is important because watch time is the #1 metric in how YouTube serves up content in its famous algorithm. So, I think the key is just to try to build, true, deep, organic engagement. I think if you give audiences what they want, then there is a path to success in, content creation.
And how many years is it taking you to get to that level?
Well, I joke that I had hair like Fabio when I started. It's a long game, right? You can't assume that you're going to have one piece of video that's going to go viral and then you succeed. I mean, you really have to devise a editorial strategy that you really, really are good at, that you have a comparative advantage and you can keep at it. It took us, we launched 12 years ago. As a typical entrepreneur, I was like, we're so late to this. And I found that we were dramatically ahead of the game. And I think it's important to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of where the industry is at, but if you're 5 steps ahead, you generally die. So it took us 5, 6 years to gain, it's true, we gained some traction, but then I had a lot of smarter, more experienced people tell me, you're all over the place. One day you're producing a travel video, the next day a top 10, the day after a fashion show. What does your audience expect when they think of WatchMojo? And just looking at the marketplace, looking at what I was interested in, we decided to do, infotainment, countdown, top 10 lists. I was like, if we have to fool our audience to care about history by doing top 10 brutal dictators, fine, we'll do that. Over time, we really have become more of a general entertainment and pop culture brand. So lists on movies, gaming, music, a little bit of history, and, lots of other less and more random.
It's taken a while to get there. Yeah, but Charlotte, yours described as an overnight sensation. After
Sorry.
Yeah. Is it on?
Sorry.
Yep. After the advert, of course, the Super Bowl advert, the Carl Jr. Super Bowl advert, 2015.
Hello, can anyone hear? Oh, can you hear me now?
Is that, can everyone hear Charlotte?
I think it's working.
Hello. Oh, can you hear me?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
So you described as an overnight sensation from 2015 from the Super Bowl advert.
Yeah.
How are your numbers looking now?
Well, they started. It just kind of, how you were saying, it just kind of happened overnight that with the Super Bowl it played, and then I was on Good Morning America the next day talking about it. So it just sort of happened, but the numbers grew really rapidly. But now I'm at 1.4 on Instagram million, so not that much, but it's definitely something you got to keep up with.
And what can be the challenge? Obviously, you were seen as the girl in the world with the burger in the bikini,
Yeah.
and that's how you were known. What can be the challenge when your audience has built on that one moment?
Well, I was saying earlier, with being built on just being something sexy and a model and trying to sell a burger half naked, and then trying to be taken seriously as an actress or posting stuff about my charity or anything that's not, me in a bathing suit, I don't get as much engagement with. So it's difficult trying to find a happy median and trying to build more of a female audience because the male audience is so large. So any ladies, click follow.
Yeah. But Instagram's been the platform for you, hasn't it? Have you tried other platforms? Why have you started with Instagram?
My best engagement and everything has just been Instagram. I've always wanted to start, you know, having a YouTube channel or something like that, but it's just been kind of difficult. I play with Twitter and Facebook, but the most engagement I get is definitely on Instagram. So,
Ash, what would your advice be? Charlotte wants a YouTube channel. What would your advice be on setting up a YouTube channel?
get me a YouTube
I mean,
channel.
mission accomplished. I mean, the thing is, on YouTube, I always liked it because I felt it was where the real audience was. Warren Buffett has a line that says, you never know who's swimming naked till the tide goes down. So I say, if there's a real audience, the economics will catch up. But if you're fabricating an audience, the economics will never catch up. So for us, YouTube was just a more reliable, stable platform and partner. There's a very, very crude analogy that I won't actually repeat verbatim, but basically is, others say this, and I don't necessarily disagree, that Facebook stabs you in the back, YouTube will like punch you in the gut. So at least with YouTube, they're not perfect, but I think YouTube being a part of Google, Google at its core is all about sending out traffic, sharing revenue. Facebook's entire model is a walled garden where they suck in traffic, and Mark Zuckerberg, to his credit, has built this platform where people pay him for visibility. So I never really thought that Facebook would be a reliable partner, and I just felt like YouTube was a place where the audience was. And we never cared about, like, there's a question, do you believe in this 3-second rule? To me, it's like crazy that you would chase views on Facebook where their definition was like a 3-second engagement, and it's, you know, autoplay, sound off. Whereas on YouTube, it's like you can't really game it. If you don't give the audience, you know, early on when we started, every thumbnail was like an attractive gal with a low-cut shirt. People would click, but then the content would suck and they would leave. And we just played the long game. You know, we were producing now about 10, 12-minute videos, but at the time we were producing 5, 6-minute videos when everybody was producing 30-second clips. And I never really cared about, like, I like to say things that scale are generally not sustainable, and things that are sustainable are not done overnight. So we kind of always ignored, you know, the institutional imperative. We just kind of said, let's apply common sense, let's put ourselves in the viewer's shoes, and then good things will come. I think the problem is when you raise venture capital, which we've never done, your investors are like, hey, let's put 9 women in a room and pretend that they can give birth in a month. Won't happen.
How have the challenges changed on YouTube now, trying to build a following on YouTube in the last 5 years or so?
I mean, look, I love YouTube. Watch Mojo is the house that YouTube built, so I definitely don't want to sit here, but to give you guys something of value. I think the challenge with YouTube is they're not fundamentally at their core media and content people. So they make these decisions because they're operating at such scale, and everything to them is like a mathematical equation. Like, what degree of confidence do we want to have, and what's the margin error we could live with? And if there are some roadkill casualties, so be it. So I think Facebook's MO is let's just screw the world and suck it all in. And I'm sorry, like, if you work at Facebook, great, it's a formidable machine, but I sincerely think that's more of the Silicon Valley mindset of, you know, we will rule the world, we don't care what the effects are, even if we elect Donald Trump as president. I think Google sincerely tries to do well. I mean, the fact that their motto is do no evil is a bit scary. Like, why is that your motto? You know, like, it's like your motto is don't eat babies. You're like, obviously you shouldn't be evil, but I think fundamentally YouTube does things well. They do change their algorithm and they do change their monetization. They do change the rules of engagement quite a bit because I just think they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They're caught between all these creators now, many of whom suffer from burnout, many of whom have no job or life without YouTube, and then all these other companies and advertisers who basically are saying, look, it's not Wild Wild West. We don't want our videos to appear next to ISIS beheading videos or things that may be a bit, you know, too sensitive. And I think it's just they're constantly on this tightrope trying to please all their stakeholders, acknowledging that the only 2 stakeholders that ultimately could cut them off are investors and advertisers. You know, it's basically, for all the talk about it being a technology company, it's an ad-supported beast.
You mentioned, of course, that your lists do fantastically well. Charlotte, what have you found really does work? What gets the most viewer engagement for you?
Like I said, it's just been, for me, you know, the pictures of me, people seeing me talking to my audience. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to change that more with other things. But it's hard. It's definitely difficult trying to build a new audience out of when you just strictly have men. So.
Right. I mean, you're just about to launch a new lingerie and clothing line. How will you use social media for helping you on that?
Well, it's funny, like anytime you book, whether it's a modeling campaign or you're going to try to book a movie, they look at your following. You know, half the time I've lost jobs because I don't have enough. You know, some of these other people have such a following, and when you are booking a job, that's how many people are going to see it. So it's really important. So for this launch, you know, all of the sales will basically just be from posting off Instagram. So it's crazy. It's not at a store. It's just online. So it's definitely difficult, but I'm using this as kind of like a test run because it's not my own brand. I'm doing it with another brand, and hopefully in the future having my own lines of stuff and can kind of learn from it. So yeah.
And how much work do you do with other brands, promoting brands on your channel?
A lot. I mean, every couple other posts are, you know, brands that align with my brand and that fit my brand. Whether it's an ad for a sunglass or it's a story, you know, it's just all of them are just basically based off that.
How many do you knock back? How many come to you and you say, actually, no, that's not for me. I don't want to be promoting that?
Yeah, well, I live a very natural and organic lifestyle. So for me, if it's anything that's not healthy for the body or something I wouldn't wear, I try and really stick to who I am. And unfortunately, those are a lot of the big money jobs or a lot of big paid ads. But if it doesn't fit who I am or something I want to eat or wear, then it's just not authentic to me.
Where do you draw the line on that, Ash? What sort of rules do you have for things that you will promote and things you won't promote?
So we're like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Field of Dreams, like if you build it, they will come. So we were so early that advertisers didn't even run ads like around video. So we really were deficit financing, pure editorial. And then we would kind of license that to other media companies that needed to access a lot of videos. And then over time, we built this formidable machine where we would create the content we want, we would reach a big audience, and there would be ads that Google would sell, and we would just revenue share. And then when we would get reached out from marketers, we would literally be on 99.9%. We were like, this sucks. We wouldn't want to be, like, we wouldn't want to push this app that is spammy, that's going to use adversely affect our audience. So we generally were saying no. But then we did get to a point, once we started to reach 20, 30, 40, now 120 million unique viewers a month, where I said, look, if we're going to be a media company and we have these ambitions to become the next MTV, the next ESPN, so we hired a couple of sales executives, senior, and I told them, I said, don't go after, similarly to the content philosophy of taking your time, I said, don't chase crappy advertisers that are going to pay us, but then it's like we would be embarrassed to associate with. Let's go out and let's use advertising to kind of unlock and go down the path of events and experiences and editorial that we otherwise could not do left to our own devices. So like, let's partner with, random example, Lufthansa, and send a lucky viewer to Berlin for the opening of Star Wars. You know, because frankly, as much as I would like to do that for 100 of our fans, the company may go bankrupt if I do that, right? So I think for us, we view advertising as, is it going to open up an experience that we otherwise could not do?
Okay, great. I'm going to come to questions in a minute. I want to ask you both one question first of all. What's the biggest mistake you've done, and what did you learn from it?
Wow. I mean, I wrote my third book is The 10-Year Overnight Success, and it's basically chronicles all the mistakes I've done. I mean, since I assume there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the room, I'll touch on, literally I could do like chapter by chapter. I think with investors, you have to just probably understand that there's a lot more psychology that goes into it. And as much as like I personally, I like to serve, I like to cook, I like to make drinks for people, I like to make people happy. I realize with investors, it's not like a client that you actually want to be like, hey, what is it going to take to do the deal? And then you kind of try to find common ground. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to play a lot more psychology to actually have the courage and the confidence to walk away, you know, be a bit patient if they ask for information. Like, I hate to say it, but there is a little bit more psychology. And I messed up all those things. I was way too eager. I would try to close the deal. And so I realized, like, sometimes you have to be a bit more patient, specifically when you're trying to chase investment.
Okay, Charlotte, your biggest mistake you've made?
Biggest mistake. What are we talking about? Lots of mistakes in my life. But yeah, I mean, I started out by myself. I, you know, moved to LA solo, and there were definitely a ton of mistakes. But right now, I think it's just brands in the past I've worked with that, you know, I wouldn't now in looking back at that. But every mistake I take and I use it and, you know, learn from it. But, you know, right now the mistake I feel like I'm making is not staying up on social media and going weeks without posting, not engaging with my fans. So it's something I definitely want to work at, is to keep that engagement up, because, you know, you just forget. So
right.
trying to get back on the groove of things and all that.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, we've got some questions coming in. First of all, what do you think about influencers that buy followers? Charlotte?
Don't they go away? When one time they did like a clear out on Instagram and deleted all the the ones they paid for or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, all of the platforms, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, once in a while they will purge the fake ones anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I liked YouTube personally, because there was never this kind of motivation to buy fans. It was always very organic. And that's why I never really liked Facebook personally as a platform. But that said, I think it's different if you are a creator influencer that does that versus brands. I think most brands probably need to get a little bit of marketing going to drive fans, but that's probably goes back to my scale versus sustainability.
Right.
It might show big numbers overnight, but those are probably not going to be your biggest fans and the cheerleaders of your brands.
Or the ones buying the product. If you're buying, people have all these followers, but it's who's going to buy the product, who's going to actually be a fan, and half of them are just like robots, I think.
Okay, the next one is about content. Quality or quantity?
This is a very subjective and relative question because, again, you're talking to a guy who wrote thousands of columns, 3 books. I think I put myself in the viewer's shoes and say, somebody after working, taking care of the kids or whatever they have to do, they just don't have the attention span, and we live in this world where everybody wants information really, really quick. You won't probably watch a Beyonce biography, but you'll watch top 10 Beyonce songs just to see what her top hits are. So I think it's relative. For us, we spend a lot of man hours creating a 10-minute video that is really a lot of research and whatnot. Compared to Game of Thrones, I understand why you might say, well, that's not quality, but so we have to benchmark ourselves to what's out there on the web. And on the web, there's a lot of garbage. And that's the problem with the web, that just there's this insane amount of supply. And even though our mobile devices have created all this extra demand, ultimately, I think you have to just kind of figure out the lane you're in. At the end of the day, yes, we do compete for people's attention, but we're not fighting against Game of Thrones. We are ultimately fighting everything that people spend online watching.
Okay, Charlotte, you mentioned, of course, you haven't posted enough lately. You should be doing more.
Well, I feel like that's my motto, quality over quantity. So for me, if I'm posting something, it's something I love, a picture, a message, so for me, it's all about quality. I don't just want to junk up people's feed showing stuff all day. So I don't know if that's hurting me or helping me, but it's kind of something I follow. So.
And here's a question for you, Charlotte. How is social media manipulating your life? How do you keep that balance between your private life, your personal life?
It's tricky. I mean, there's definitely been some scary stalker stuff I've had to deal with. And, with my personal life, it's very private, whether it's my dating, my family. I keep it all, to myself. And maybe my fans don't feel like they really get into my life, but, it's something I definitely keep aside. But it definitely gives you, the anxiety have I posted this and that? What are they doing? What am I doing? So it's not as pretty and fun as it always looks, I think.
And has it been the stage when you had to call the police in on stalkers? Has it been that bad?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, it definitely, it's definitely not something to joke about. It's definitely putting your geotags and all that is really important. It's your safety, so yeah.
Have you had to bring somebody in to help you with that? Have you had consultants working with you on social media safety?
Yeah, I think it's just common sense. When you leave, put the geotag, not putting your exact location right when you're there, so yeah.
Okay, we've got 20 seconds left, so one quick question to both of you. What's the one bit of advice you would give someone who's starting out trying to build a social media following?
Don't do it for the money. Understand that you have to ask yourself, am I willing to do this for 5 years, 10 years, however long, not really necessarily make money? Because if you go into it for quick fame or wealth, you'll fail.
Be authentic.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Ash, Charlotte, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, guys.
Here we go.